just from Councillor Jason Matthews, poorly, but a cold. Best to keep it at home.
Yeah, that'll have a bearing on agenda item number 12, which Jason was leading on, which I don't know. I don't think the partners enough about at the moment, so we may have to relay that. Thank you very much, Pat. Declarations of interest. Could I just start by declaring an interest in the agenda item 9, the Boundary Commission recommendations, and I'll ask Councillor Martin to chair that part of the meeting. I will take all part in it. Thank you very much. Minutes of the previous meeting. Stand Council meeting the 10th of September 2018 for approval. We take them as read. Proposer, please. Councillor Geddes, seconder. Councillor Toogood, and all those in favour. Please show. Thank you very much, Mary. Planning Committee meeting on the 12th of September attached for information, and Planning Committee meeting 3rd of October 2018 attached for information. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 4, finance report. The Park.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The usual information here at the halfway stage of the financial year, of course. Balances at that point stood at 304,720, and the reconciliation had been completed thanks to the Assistant Town Clerk and her colleagues. Payments during September, we paid out a total of 35,613. Of which, as you can see, 4,894 is from Salisbury Gardens account, and the full list, as usual, is attached to the report. We paid out in the same period of time, we received during that period of time a total of 8,974, with 5,662 of that coming from Salisbury Gardens rents. The year to date, the year to the half year point of the financial year, payments and receipts, the list of those is attached, and the bottom line is that expenditure for the period was 4,310 less than the budget, while receipts were 10,359 higher than the budget. So it all looks very sound to me, but it's over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, very sound indeed. Thank you. Particularly pleased, as I've said before, with the repeating the situation regarding Salisbury Gardens here, which has been a fantastic success story. I'm sure everybody will agree with. Councillors, any questions on the financial report? My God, you know who's Emma the Dark. Did you get a special deal on that?
What's that?
That yellow paper.
Yeah, because that's me read better, so.
I see.
It's easier for me to read. That's why, yeah, help
okay.
Yeah, but very good to hear.
Because you were special.
No, I'm special, but it does help me a lot.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, thank you.
No questions.
Just one thing about breakfast meeting provisions. In amongst all that, the breakfast meeting provisions. I'm assuming. Just under Mill Bay, it says, and then breakfast meeting provisions. I'm just sort of more interested.
Oh, I see.
Yes, we agreed to encourage people to come to that, given that it was an early morning start, by providing some minor refreshments in the form of sausage rolls.
Not granola then? Not granola then?
No. Not yet.
Oh yes. No, okay, no, I was just interested more than anything because it just sort of surprised
good question, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hill. Yeah. So, bearing that in mind, could I have a proposer to be accepted the financial report? Councillor Toogood, second, please. Councillor Martin, all those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Over to you again, David, for to provide the annual governance and accountability return. I saw the email about
yes, I won't keep long on this, but because of the statutory requirement, as your governing report, to publish the annual return, or the AGAR as it's now known, for those who work with it and love it, as I do. The statutory requirement is that that's displayed to the public by the 30th of September each year, and that hasn't happened this year, because the newly appointed auditors were late in returning it. So I've gone into some detail, both so that you note the fact that it wasn't complied with, although it was complied with soon after we were able to put the notice in the relevant places the following Monday. And as you have noticed, it's not just Ventnor Town Council, like we did before deadline day, and the auditors were working through their pile of papers in alphabetical hours before it's made public. On this occasion, that wasn't possible, which I'm not, I can't apologise with, it wasn't my fault, so I won't fix it. As you'll note, there was one error they spotted that annoyed me too, because in the past that kind of error, which is made not just by me but by other clerks from 2022, is normally corrected in the time before the 8 hours return, because it's minor, it doesn't affect anything to do with the substantive accounts of the council, but however that's the way it is. Unless I'm instructed otherwise by this meeting, I intend to register a complaint about the way the audit was treated this time round. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Speaking for myself, I don't have no objections to that. I think it's probably the correct procedure to take. Thank you very much. This doesn't require a decision of colleagues, but members are recommended to note the delay in provision of the auditor's reports and certificate. And I'll open the discussion. Would you like to add anything to that? In particular, the facts statement about making a formal complaint.
Yes, I think we should. Should we have some form of formal support to the clerk in his?
Well, we can call a vote on it.
Yes, I think we should have a vote
for
of
the
support.
record.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, would you like to move to that formally?
Yes. I forget the exact words that the clerk used there, but I think this council fully supports him in his desire to make a formal complaint, as he explained it.
Okay.
And I will propose that.
Thank you.
I second it.
All those in favour?
Thank you.
So, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Clark. Item number 6. The lease on the first aid hut, a weekly home.
It's an amazing document for such a little piece of kit. At least this one doesn't include like the draft, the initial one, which required us to maintain the lift carefully. That's now history, and we now have a complete list. As you can see from the report, has been looked at by members of the Assets and Services Group, who are generally happy with it, with some minor amendments. I haven't included them in the report, but I'm grateful to the Deputy Mayor for giving it careful consideration, and I'm proposing to take those up with the Isle of Wight Council once the in-principle acceptance is agreed here.
Thank you very much. I think the Isle of Wight Council performed a very neat body swerve over this when you look at the dates. got rid of it in a very timely manner and really forced our hand, because it was untenable that we shouldn't have a provision for lifeguards on our beaches. It's one of the busiest beaches, certainly on this side of the Isle of Wight, probably in the island. So, I would say that next case.
I was interested to see, I mean, I think the lease is standard lease, no trouble about that. But I was interested to see that if we found somebody who wanted to take it on, we could assign it to that person, that body, which I was quite surprised about. I thought it would be a non-assignable lease, but you never know, do you?
Gives us the option.
They usually say you
They
can't.
usually say you can't, yeah.
You need their permission.
Yeah, not to be unreasonably withheld though, so.
Yeah, it'd be much easier for us to do that in that circumstance
Yeah.
than it would be. Yeah. Any comments, councillors?
The resolution currently reads as drafted, resolved that subject to a satisfactory conclusion in respect to the items highlighted by the Assets and Services Group, the amended lease be adopted and its signature authorised.
Would you like that wording to replace? Well, we can't really, we have to take it as
We can amend it, can't we?
yeah.
Right.
We can amend it, can't we? We can amend it.
Well, we amended it in discussion with them, yes.
Yeah.
The approach will be to discuss it with the legal services department and discuss the items that Councillor Marvin's raised.
Okay, so we can still move to the vote with that proviso. Councillor Bates, thank you. Does that have a second, please? Councillor Marvin, all those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the citizen decision is for information really. Item number 7, community-led housing update. What do you think?
I was just keen, Mr. Mayor, just to make sure people are up to date with where we were at with the process. And as you can see, there's not a great deal because we're waiting for decisions on the funding applications. So this report is to record the fact that the funding applications have been submitted and to record the fact as well, as in section 2C of the report, that Councillors Jim Toogood and Jason Mack in their respective lead roles have met with 2 of the potential consultants to conduct the feasibility studies if the funding is available. We've made it clear to both of them that it's obviously contingent on going ahead with that, but it seems sensible to be in a position to start as soon as possible given the constraints of the timetable further down the road. The timetable, just to remind you that I think we're working to at present, is that we expect a decision on the funding next week. We expect to take up to a month to recruit and brief a consultant, probably from one of those 2, because they're the only 2 on the Isle of Wight Council's preferred supplier list for this purpose that are island based, and we're keen, I think the council is keen to retain the services of an island provider, provided they meet the requirements of the task. So we wanted to be in a position to move ahead. We reckon that might take a month to finalise the recruitment and the briefing process for the study. Although oddly enough, helpfully enough, the informal meetings we've had with them, recorded there last week, have provided a lot of useful detail. Councillor Toogood, didn't
Yeah, he did, yes.
So we know more what the brief needs to contain.
Yeah, it was very useful. Very useful.
So that was a really useful session.
Yeah.
Once the consultant is appointed, we expect that might take up to 3 months, which perhaps takes us to February. And subject to a satisfactory outcome from that, we would then proceed to develop the major grant application to the programme, and that's a very big job because it's going to be for quite a lot of funding, and their deadlines are June and December. So at present, it's still possible to meet the June deadline, after which they take a month to assess and determine what grant funding they will or will not make available. So that's why we're keen to be ready to go if the funding is available. next week.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Just before I open it out, could you just explain for clarity the part John, if any, John Browscombe has in deciding about the feasibility, the funding for the feasibility study?
What's that?
Because it's, the community action highway employs John Browscombe, so is it John that actually makes the decision regarding the funding? Yeah. And the panel is, you know? You don't know. Right. And you don't know what the position of the panel is for each year, so.
No, I just know that they have promised to make a decision by next week.
By next week. Okay, thanks. No, I didn't expect we'd know the answer, but just in my head, I just thought, as the name was the appeal, might not put one and two together. Okay, sorry. Okay, members. Fine.
Can I ask Clark, what is the body that we will make the full grant application to? Who are they?
It's made to the community-led funding programme.
Was it a government?
This is a government fund nationally at £60 million.
Yeah.
And the Isle of Wight Council has acquired very effectively 1.6 million of that. And because the funding nationally is targeted at areas with high levels of second homes, particularly, so the Isle of Wight clearly qualified for that.
Yeah.
So there's 1.6 million somewhere in the Isle of Wight Council's bank, and John Browscombe is the lead officer for getting it spent by 2022.
Anybody else?
No.
Thank you very much indeed. So we look forward next week to getting your email.
Next week, well, yes.
Telling us that we've been successful in the application part. Thank you very much. Which leads us to our old friend, Ventnor Haven. And some people call it hydrogen sulfide. Some people who live with the windows open overlooking it call it something entirely different, but completely unprintable and shouldn't appear in the minutes anywhere. But you can see from the paper before you that Cheetah Marine are having problems with the equipment, in particular the boat, the engine thereof, and the pump which is on the boat, and the whole thing was Cheetah Marine's invention in the first place, so it was something which was quite unique at the time. There are buzzes afoot at Isle of Wight Council about the cost of this, so I'll be interested to see how this pans out at county level. But as you can see at item 4, our recommendation, the recommendation here is that members are recommended to establish a small working group, including the Park and Council to meet with Cheetah Marine's Sean Strevens to discuss the details of the present situation and subsequently contact the Isle of Wight Council to provide support for progressing the issue.
Councillor Seagood knows more about
Yeah, well, I don't really, but I suppose I do.
He's got more sensitive nose than the rest.
No, God knows really. No, I had a meeting with Sean, I had 2 meetings with Sean, and the real problem he got that he's been trying to get some property away from the Isle of Wight County Council for some years. At the moment, he actually rents an old building up on the council, on the estate there. But the building's not fit for purpose anymore. So, with that, in comes a boat that wants a lot of repairing. He's got no space where he is at all to repair it. So what he's saying to all that council, look, that building I rent off of you, let me have this land, I'll pay you the same rent for that piece of land which I'm paying for the building. And I will also pay for the cost of the fire services training tower to move around the front, which will enable the fire service apply to get to it closer and easier for training. But then when he's done all that, this year he can bring the boat up here to do the major repairs on it. About 30 grand he wants to spend on it. Then next year he applied for planning permission to build a building down the side and rent it back, which is suitable for his use. And he's been banging his head probably 3 or 4 years, probably more now, with the council. So I spoke to Mr. B and said, could we do any help? And David said, yes, we could. So this is where we are. He really wants to force us behind him because he is struggling. Here's a man who might do more employment, all good for the island, and he's struggling. And really, if you don't get that boat going properly by really this winter, we're going to have a very smelly period in Ventnor next year. Because that's the only place you can repair it up there.
No, I remember what it was like before.
We had 2 days on it this year, and it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think it's got to be said, though, if that don't happen, we're going to have problems with it. But we just need to push the council along somehow.
Do you have any insight into the particular problems that he has with Isle of Wight Council?
I think, David, you know a bit more about that, don't you, really? He's just trying to get through to the right people.
I'm only saying that because of the Isle of Wight Council here, he might be able to take something back.
He can bang his head against the wall. That's a problem for a long time. He can't seem to get anyone going.
Right.
County ministers or councillors change their job pretty good, don't they?
There's a council level or officer level we're talking here.
It's I've seen an email from Ashley Curzon, who's the responsible officer to Cheetah Marine, in which he says he'll need to familiarise himself with the background because it's a long time since he's been.
Bad, isn't it? Yeah, really bad.
Sorry, members' permission will bring Gary in.
I've got a meeting with the council concerning the harbour on Thursday. I've got no idea what it's about, other than the fact it's about financing. So I'm more than happy to take any messages forward on Thursday.
Can I, with your permission, speak to Gary afterwards?
Sure.
And take Jeremy's photographs and I'll go through it a bit more detail, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that all right?
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll take Jeremy's photograph back in.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you. Thanks,
how much exactly did we pay Royal Haskins for this report that came to know? I would be curious to know. Because that's a waste of our money. Again, that money could have gone to Sean, of course, to support what he's doing. We do need jobs in the town. I'm a little concerned about the jobs though, because I want to make sure the future jobs are for people in the town. Because I do remember him saying that he was going to provide apprenticeships.
There is a print. When I went down last week, there's 2 principals in there.
Oh, they can
I didn't really ask that question. I didn't think
I think we should. If we're going to support this, we need to know that these new jobs and apprenticeships are
from local people.
For local people. I know it's difficult to find skilled people, but that's one of those problems, isn't it? It's cat's basket of who's skilled and who isn't. But I am concerned about Royal Haskins because they made a huge amount of money.
Well, the other thing I don't know if it's on the public record, Councillor too good, but it would just worry me that the council's usual way around things like that are commercial confidentiality, and they might use that as an umbrella term to try. Again, Gary will take it back to the council, but my view is that was the reason that the exact figure never came out originally. But in the order of 80,000 is an awful lot of money for that.
Absolutely.
With regard, and I take what you say about not dependent cheating by any means, I take what you say about employment, but in the speciality trade that they are in, they will probably be wanting to employ people who have the knowledge or the expertise or skills in boat building. But the way through that obviously is through apprenticeships, and it's encouraging to hear Jim mention the fact that they're taking on apprenticeships.
There's 2 young lads and I should
apprentices on that,
I do skill.
Can I just ask a question in interest really more than anything? In an ideal world, what is Sean after? So if I said this is your ideal world, what would he like at the end of it?
What he's asking for really is to, first of all, pay the cost of moving out to the front, then rent this land down the side and rent it back, repair the boat outside this year whilst he's applying for a permanent planning permission. He can then build a unit there, perfect built. What he's paying on that unit, he will pay the council to lease the land off them for probably many years. They're not losing anything if they're getting 10 grand for that. I'm only throwing that figure around mine. He would pay them exactly the same to lease that land and build a new building on there because he builds as he wants it. And this is our old building.
Because through you, Chair, that's the nub of the matter, isn't it? The nub of the matter is you've got a local business that wants to expand and pay rent on some land that's booked at the moment unused.
It's pretty rubbish, actually. You see what's on for.
And I would have thought And it's the harbour and is incidental, isn't it? I mean, the nub of the matter is he wants to expand the business and he needs a response from the council.
Yeah.
And I guess the downside for them is going to be the hassle and the legal work
Sure.
because otherwise, I mean, if the land's unused at the moment, or is those containers on it?
But
Somebody paying to put the containers on it?
well, I don't know whose containers they are. I didn't ask actually, but the Forest Service, it's not easy for them to do their drills on more ground and get around the building. But put it on the front, over front, see?
The problem with fire tower in this position, well, it's always been there,
Yeah.
but everything's been built around about it. And I'm surprised actually that was allowed to happen. I don't know who was responsible at the time for that, because there's no access for a fire engine to get anywhere near
You
it.
back, see? I mean, when I was in Shanken Forest Service, they used to come down and use our tower.
Yeah.
And it also got a bit, we used to mix up when we were training. And so that's when they put that tower there. But you can't get around it. You can only get to one side, one front.
Right, yeah.
You can't do a full exercise on it. Not like, so it would do much better in front.
Yeah.
You get the plants and all to it. Yes.
It seems to me a sensible proposition.
Just want someone to push it along a bit down in County Hall. Speak later. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I'm all for encouraging our local industry, which is a very successful one, and I think it's one that contributes considerably to the town. I was really interested in the report from the specialist who came up with lots of solutions that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Now, what were they?
Yes.
What were those solutions that didn't work?
Commercial competence.
You pay a lot of money for something that they don't tell you the detail of, and they didn't work in any event. It does make sense. It's fantasy, isn't it?
I hope it wasn't DJ sooner than
I just reply to that. Let me call for the record that we have been told that we will be providing with a copy of the report once it's been through the full council process.
Right. Okay, well, I mean, who's decided that these things won't work? That's the other thing, of course, because you have local knowledge. I mean, do the local fishermen and all the other people who have knowledge of the tides, etc., have they had access to these possibilities to say, well, I think it might work, or whatever?
Yeah.
It seems a sort of open and shut case to me.
That's it. Not exactly transparent, is it? You try to 80,000 to lend the. Anyway, it's not for me to say.
What sort of thing will appear in private eyes, rotten boroughs, as you've done?
It is. It's an
well
ideal candidate for that, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I'll tell Heather as well. No, it is outrageous, and they have made a lot of money out of us in the past. It's not only this.
What the consultants?
Yeah.
Consultants, yes, absolutely.
And they consulted.
They designed it and it didn't work, and now they've designed
Yeah, exactly.
the solution, which they can't find.
Go and ask them to do it.
Yes.
I fully agree actually with what Councillor Lucas has said. It's a very good point actually, because surely the idea is the county council and the elected members of that county council are the ones that make the decision about what can or can't work, as opposed to a non-elected body.
Well, at that level, I agree with you, Councillor Hall. Okay, so let's get to the recommendation, which is that a small working group is established, including the clerk and Councillor James, to meet with Cheetah Marine and Sean Strebin, who's a very approachable character, to discuss the details of the present situation and subsequently contact the Alouette Council to provide support for progressing the issue. What size of a small working group are we envisaging here?
Don't want many really, probably, if I'm really honest with you, 2 I would have thought, and David's, really. Someone like, with great respect, someone like Brian who's got practical knowledge.
You mean outside of the assets group?
Dear, what is that?
No, I'm just asking the question.
Well, if it's me, you don't want a lot of people to meet it, it will get terribly complicated. Brian is very practical, so, like myself, and I think, and David, I think that's enough, personally, unless you think different, David.
No, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Mayor, do you think?
Because I don't think it's a major issue. I'm just keen that we're clear precisely.
Yes, yeah.
The problem is.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any great debate about
No.
it. I don't think there is, as council say otherwise. It's a straightforward meeting to get the information, and certainly I'd be very happy with Councillor Lucas and me to meet up with him.
If I'm on my occasional holiday, Mr. Lucas can do it.
Well, people seem, the council seem keen to to volunteer your services.
He's my agent.
Don't mention that
Brian is a highly qualified person, I know, and most of you know.
Yeah.
one. Yeah, absolutely. So we have Councillor Toogood, Councillor Lucas. Does anybody else have a burning ambition to serve? No? All those in favour? Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, no, I didn't. No, I just said that. Can I have a Councillor Geddes? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item is the Burning Commission recommendations, and I'll transfer the chair to Tony. Thank you very much. Did not have any water.
Right, the next item, the Boundary Commission review. As we're all aware, this has been going on, and they've published their draft recommendations. A reduced version of that report is available here, and the punchline was, as far as we're concerned, is that Wroxall would join us, but the Wroxall end of the town council area would be a 2-member ward, and I think we're all reason that the reason for which the review was undertaken was to ensure that wards would have electorates that were within 10% of equality across the island, and that had rather got out of sync over the years. Would anyone like to comment?
Has anybody considered how these two county councillors would work together in such a large area? Would there be allocation of one area to another, or would everybody just pitch in according to what they get involved in? I just don't understand it. So presumably it would be after the elections, so it would be not necessarily the same councillors we have at the moment.
Well, the idea is that the two council, the spirit of what they're saying is that they don't want to draw a dividing line, because that would then produce two areas with less than the 10%. So there's some sort of numbers game. Am I right, Clark?
Yes, my understanding is the model, as far as the Isle of Council will operate it is already in place with Brading, St Helens and Benbridge, where the 3 separate areas and 3 separate town and parish councils jointly elect 2 councillors to cover the whole of those areas. As you know, I was briefly town clerk at Brady before I ran away to Ventnor, and it worked perfectly well, I have to say. There were 2 members who took it in turns to attend town council and parish council meetings across the island. The election was for across the whole of the 3 together. It wasn't one for Benbridge, one for etc. All I can say is it worked perfectly well.
So it has proved to work.
Sorry, Councillor Boyd.
Yeah, I think the issue is about the town, not the members. Multi-member wards work across the country very well. And as I've been a multi-member councillor for many years, so there's nothing wrong with it in principle. I think the problem in practice is that Ventnor's been singled out as the unusual ward in the island, and whether that's in the interest of the town is the question for us to consider. I think, because at the very least you get a less representative result if you've got one multi-member ward. You're probably going to have a less representative result than if you had two smaller wards. And the question for us, I think, is whether it would be possible to divide this area in some sort of sensible fashion to produce two single-member wards like we have at the moment. And it won't reduce the numbers that you can't do that, because if the overall area is 10% over, then if you divide it exactly in half, you've got 2 halves that are 10% over. So the question is whether it can be done sensibly, and without a lot of data, it's hard to answer that question. But I think Wroxall is small and Ventnor's big, so it'd be very hard to split Wroxall in half. So if it were to be done, I think you'd have to move the boundary between east and west in Ventnor, and add Wroxall to one half or the other. And probably the easiest way of doing it, without, as I say, without the numbers to know whether it works or not, would be to add Wroxall, Lowtherville and St Lawrence as one area, and then move the western side of the town centre, so that would be the park and the Esplanade, over into Ventnor East to balance up the numbers. So you then have effectively a Ventnor ward, which would be the town centre and Bonchurch, and you'd have a Lowtherville and Wroxall ward, which would take in St Lawrence. Now, whether we want to do that or not is up to us, and somebody has to do some figure work to work out whether it would be feasible. The issue, as I say, is just whether it's in the town's interest to be the only large ward on the Isle of Wight with 2 members, rather than having one member serving each part of the town.
And my personal view is that there should always be a direct link between a voter or an elector and the representation, which then mitigates against the idea of a 2-member sort of undefined ward. But I don't doubt it works perfectly well. For me, it's a democratic principle that's at stake, that there should be this direct link between an elector and their representative. But how we can change what the Boundary Commission is thinking on this is a bit difficult without having access to all their information and coming up with some sound, reasoned, numerical and boundary discussion.
Just a quick point. How is the actual election expected to work? Are we going to have like people having 2 votes onto one paper? Yeah. So you'll have a list of candidates and you choose your 2 favourites. Yeah.
I think as far as the Boundary Commission is concerned, I think arguing for a different division of the island would be very difficult looking at the numbers. But what I think would be quite easy, if we can do it, I think coming back and saying we'd rather have single member wards and here's our proposal, we're dividing your area in half, actually would be easy as far as the Commission is concerned. The difficult bit is coming up with something that I think is here that we're happy with. But if it does divide in half, I think the Commission would, my instinct is the Commission would be open to that proposal, because it then gives you a tidy solution where the whole island has single member wards.
I actually just want to add a quick thing. It's quite an interesting thought, actually, Councillor Bond. I think that it could possibly work, because I'm a great lover of things that are unbiased, and I know people argue the toss over whether these things are unbiased or not, but I think the Boundary Commission is completely impartial, in my opinion. I like what they've put on here, and I think it's well thought, to a degree. But then equally listening to the thoughts that Councillor Bond has mentioned, it does make sense in a way, I think, to actually have Wroxall as part of some sort of Ventnor Westy sort of area with St Lawrence and Lowtherville. Because when you think about it, Wroxall residents probably do use the town quite a lot, such as for health care, such as for dental care. So a lot of these issues are quite key to what councillors tend to get a lot of inquiries, county councillors in particular, when they get general inquiries. They do tend to be on quite a micro basis, such as, why is my local doctor's surgery shut? Why is healthcare in my area perhaps not as high of a standard as it should be? So I think there is I think this has been thought through properly. I certainly believe that, and I think what they've done is probably tried to make the best out of a bit of a sticky situation, because I certainly feel, looking at the map, it's almost as though they've looked at every single area, and unfortunately we've been the unlucky ones in this instance, where obviously they've had to come to a reasonable conclusion.
From those that have spoken, the feeling I'm getting is that the boundary itself, the outer boundary, is not a point for discussion. It's the actual potential division within the proposed boundary to see if we can have 2 wards.
I think as far as the outer boundary is concerned, I think on the numbers it would be quite hard to argue against it. And also the strongest argument is a Wroxall argument, really, about Wroxall and Godsill, because Godsill actually is ending up with a massive board if you look at it, which is rather odd. So I think it would be quite hard to argue that you should add Wroxall to the whole of huge area. So I think in practical terms, if I was putting myself in the position of the Commission, if I'm looking at this, I think it'd be very hard to change that outer boundary. But I think it would be quite easy for us to put a case forward to split it into two, east and west, provided we can come up with something that works. And then it would divide it somehow. But I don't think north and south. I think you'd struggle to make north and south work, to be honest.
Okay,
and the other advantage it would give us is it would give us a chance to unite the town centre, the Esplanade, and the park in one ward or another. At the moment, of course, the line sort of cuts the town centre in half.
That was what I was going to ask Councillor Bond, say what would be the advantage of splitting this area into two? What's wrong with having it as one?
I think there are three things. One is that it sticks out as unusual as far as the overall pattern on the island is concerned. Everybody else has single member wards and we'd be different.
But until
secondly, it would be less representative because the larger the wards, the more members. Generally, larger wards tend to have all the members from the same party, not always, but generally. And therefore, the larger you make the wards, the less representative it is. And the third advantage would be the chance to bring the town centre all together in one ward. I think those are the three things that.
If I may say, I think if you try to split it like this, the disadvantage to it will be quite a contrived ward with very distinct sort of geographical areas, with St Lawrence being very much shoved off over to the west, accessible only by the chute, unless you divide Gillscliff Road, the north of Gillscliff Road in one ward, and the south side of Gillscliff Road in another ward, in another division rather. It warrants consideration, but there's certainly disadvantages to the scheme as well. But I'd be very happy to look at a more detailed proposal.
Remind us of the time scale, Clark.
12th of November.
Is that right?
12th of November.
Quite soon.
Which is the same date as the next town council meeting, so strictly we ought to do it, decide what we're going to do today.
If we were to look at alternative proposal, I think we obviously need to dedicate it to some officers to do a bit of figure work, because you need to work from the actual register. But personally, if it can be done, I mean, it's not a huge job, because all you're doing is working out how many streets.
Vauxhall, Loudville, and St Lawrence is relatively simple.
The question essentially is how many streets in the sort of west of the town centre, in the Esplanade and Park area, you need to move into the east.
Right, without looking too contrived on the map, as we were just hearing. The boundary goes down someone's garden path and up the next garden path, type of thing. Yeah. Okay. Is this feasible, Clark? That you can gather the numbers and.
I do what I'm told, Chair.
That sounds like a yes to me.
With the electoral register, it is doable. Bearing in mind there's quite there's a good tolerance, so you don't have to be exactly half and half. You've got 10% either way, haven't you?
We'll need a group to work on it.
Yes.
This is going to develop.
Can I suggest Councillor Bond leads said group?
I'm happy to do that.
As somebody from the sort of central area, and ideally we need somebody from
St Lawrence and from Loudville.
Yeah.
And I think we ought to bear in mind that the housing growth in this area is actually going to be centred on Vauxhall. Vauxhall's growing exponentially, and Vauxhall is actually going to end up being quite a population high for a lot of reasons. So if you look 10 years down the road, that's where we think about it.
But the Commission's route, we have to use the Commission's numbers, and the Commission, in theory, has asked the Council to project housing growth forward. So the numbers, if you accept the Isle of Wight's projections, the numbers should already include what the Council expects.
Yeah, but Ventnor can't grow that much. But we haven't got the discretion to change the numbers. We have to use the numbers they've worked from.
So is the proposal that Councillor Bond, the Clerk, assisted by Councillor Bond, and yeah, fine, good. The two of them.
Need somebody from St
Lawrence. I'll help him.
Okay.
And I think the task is to answer the question: can we come up with a sensible division of this ward? If we can't, then I think we accept it as it is. If we can, we need to get the approval of the Council to make that proposal.
So That's just councillors Bond and Coppage, is it, with me?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I would suggest a larger group, or at least to bounce ideas off.
Well,
As it's Louderville, I'd be quite happy to.
oh, if it's Louderville, okay, then Councillor Hill.
And I think we should have maybe opened that up as well to Councillor Mack to join, should he wish to. I think that would be the best thing to do as well.
I'm trying to keep it tightly focused so that then once you've had an initial deliberation, then the rest of us can be involved.
Yeah,
remotely.
I would agree with that to a degree, but I think where this isn't a controversial topic as such, where we're both from the same area, well, it might be controversial in some people's opinions, but in my opinion, it's certainly not controversial, and there are other more important issues out there that are more controversial. So I think on that basis, because we're both from the same area, okay, yeah, it might be a little bit of a packed room, but it would be good to, I think, have a number of different opinions there. I mean, that's just what I'm saying. I'm not against it. I'm not against it.
My tendency is to limit it, sort of as one from each area, and then.
If we have three of us to do the work, and if we take it, if we commit to sharing the suggestion with everyone.
Yes.
We'll circulate the conclusions by email, definitely, because I wouldn't feel comfortable with going ahead unless we had.
So the proposal, therefore, is to set up a small group as to determine our response. And so we're not actually following the recommendation here, except the thing that a response is appropriate, and we're going to set up a small group to look at the response.
Yeah.
Should we also resolve now to to be able to distribute a conclusion from that working group and agree it by email?
I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah. So does that need a formal proposal?
Yeah. That's absolutely fine. Great.
Seconder?
Sorry.
Councillor Hill. Councillor Hill. Councillor Hill.
Thank you.
And all those in favour? Sorry, can we have that one again? One abstention, or two abstentions. Against? Yes. One against.
Two abstentions.
No, one abstention, two against. Sorry.
I'm against.
One against.
Right.
Over to you.
Right, thank you very much, members. Thanks for your bids. Item number 10, local cabinet meeting. This is the idea that the cabinet is decided to go on the road and bring themselves to us, the people, as I think the cabinet nationally has been doing, but I don't know quite how that went. But the Isle of Wight Council's Cabinet has recently adopted the practice of relocating some of its usual monthly meetings to local venues, with the double meeting being taking place in Brading. Did not then be attended to Brading. No, you didn't. So I don't know how that panned out. And the email has been sent to parts of the attached email to parts of the mentioned councils there. The invitation involves a total of 42 town and parish councillors: Chale, Godsill, Knighton, Whitwell, Wroxall and Ventnor, with numbers attached. And we are required to respond to that, and response takes the form of the holding of cabinet meetings in selected venues other than Newport is a welcome development, and judging by the experience in Brading, is likely to attract residents from those local areas to see the cabinets at work. However, given that town and parish councils' policies and proposals are based on their own corporate decision making, inviting individual members to make suggestions in this context is unusual. And C, members may wish to discuss and agree a joint response to this invitation.
So, Chair,
the first,
can someone explain what that B actually means?
Sorry, say that again?
The B that you've just read out.
Given the town and parish council's
What does it
policy,
actually mean?
proposals are based on their own corporate decision making. Well, I suppose it's in so much as it says that asking individual members here to make points in that context.
If I may, it actually relates to the second part of 1C, which is so including an invitation for members of those councils to attend a following private session. So there's two actual things going on. One is the cabinet meeting in public, and the other one then is we're all invited to a private session.
I mean, the cabinet meeting will take place according to its own rules, and there'll be a procedure for any public participation. Other than that, it will just be a cabinet meeting and essentially with an audience.
So there's no public participation at a cabinet meeting.
Well, in which case it will just be an audience. And then, as Tony says, there's a private meeting afterwards of a format that's unspecified. I just don't. That B to me doesn't mean. I don't understand what that means.
I can tell you how the cabinet meetings, because I go to most of them in any case. What happens is there's no public discussion at council point at a cabinet meeting by the way council, but there are limited pressures from members, i.e. County councils, to the cabinet, but nothing certainly from the floor or from members of the public in that case. So it's really.
I mean, different councils are different. It's obviously disappointing if the Isle of Wight doesn't allow the public to speak, but that's
right, and also the fact that we've been invited to a closed door meeting means that it's not transparent, and the fact is that we wouldn't be allowed to ask questions of the cabinet in any case.
Well, as I say, I still don't understand what that 2B actually means.
So any contribution or question that we ask or make at these meetings, are we making them as private individuals or as members of a council, which we would not have previous clearance to speak on, presumably?
That's what that section that Councillor Bond is talking about, is trying to get at.
Yeah, that's right. I'm concerned about that, because if I start spouting up one of these meetings contrary to the views of this council, that doesn't seem to be acceptable, does it?
Well, I'm struggling with the fact that you've been invited to make
No, ask a question.
Yeah.
And so a private session afterwards.
No, I'll ask a question which may well not suit this council's opinions, or what questions should be asked. Am I an individual, or am I a council member?
Are you bound by collective responsibility here?
Yeah.
Well, in this context, though, it's an informal meeting. It has no decision-making powers. It's just a discussion with the cabinet members, and we're being invited as individual councillors, not as along with a whole batch of other councillors from other wards. So it's not, this council isn't being invited as a corporate body. It's us as councillors that are being invited, and it would be a very strange. I mean, I've no idea what the agenda is going to be, what the format's going to be, but it would be a very odd meeting to go along unable to say anything.
Well, I imagine it'll be governed by the council's standing orders, and I don't know what they are, but which is why I asked if anybody had been to the one in Brading to sort of try and glean some idea of the format.
I've got to say, I'm also confused about the section B of the response, mainly because I don't really know what's unusual. I think it's actually a very good thing, in my opinion, that the county council are welcoming opinions from town and parish councillors to express an opinion and share a view. And surely, if the county council, being the body that presides over such considering they preside over councillors that are disorderly, you would think that, well, this sort of seals the deal, really, that if the county council are happy for councillors to express an opinion, then, town councillors are happy to express an opinion, then I don't really see what the issue is, because the county council are the upper tier of local authority, surely.
Yeah, I suppose the ideal for the county council or the cabinet as representatives of that body would be to take back what we say. If they think there's any merit in the arguments that we put forward, then that would be fine. I would suggest that we unify before the meeting and present a unified view to the cabinet, just to circumnavigate the problems that Councillor Lucas and Councillor Bond have highlighted. In other words, supposing we made a decision about the Haven, and we wanted to strongly represent those views to the cabinet, then that would be an ideal situation to do it in.
Oh, I agree from that point of view, but I do feel that it's only right that individual members of this town council have absolute approval to speak to the leader of the council and other cabinet members in a direct way without feeling, you could say, pressurised by being around other members of this council, because you know as well as I do, and I'm sure everybody else in this room, if you have a concern that you wish to share with people, particularly in workplaces, it's not necessarily the best way to go about doing it in front of the whole office floor. So I actually think what this encourages is it encourages transparency in a very private and confidential way at the same time. Now, some would say that's contradictory for me to say that, but what I'm saying is that it gives town and parish councillors the opportunity to simply share what they think without, basically standing out and allowing them to share what they think, because I think this is what this is all about. It's about getting into the towns, getting into the parishes, and hearing what members of the public say. And if we're not going to let councillors say what they think, then quite frankly, there's no point in Ventnor Town Council existing, in my opinion.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think the wording is quite important here in paragraph 2 of the email. And it says the purpose of the meeting will be to share information about matters relating to the town and parish councils. It doesn't mention the councillors individually in attendance. A, to inform cabinet members of your, i.e. the town council's future plans, not individual members, and local issues. And B, to enable cabinet members to share with you information about wider IWC matters which we are currently addressing. So it's a two-way dialogue, but I think I may be interpreting this wrong, and I don't know if the clerk's got a view on this, but my interpretation would be that they're wanting to talk to us as a council to inform cabinet members of your future plans and local issues. That's my reading.
Well, if that's the case, Mr. Mayor, why does it say here then that it's unusual, quote unquote, to invite individual members to make suggestions in this context? Surely then I would suggest, and just by what you've said there, that this response is rather contradictory.
Chair, I think we're making rather heavy weather of this. I do think 2B is unfortunately worded. I mean, there are two issues here. One is that if we're asked about the plans of the council, then obviously all of us have a responsibility to honestly express the plans of the council, not our own agendas. But equally, if we're invited to a meeting as an individual, and it's very clear from the beginning of this invitation that we are being invited as individual councillors, this council has no power to tell me or anyone else what they can and can't say. And if we're asked our individual views on some left field proposal like painting all the lampposts on the Island Green or something, if I think that's a good or a bad idea, I'm perfectly at liberty to say so. And nothing we pass tonight can prevent any of us from expressing our views. And so I would suggest that 2B is simply deleted.
I would be happy to second that.
I mean, the only other point there is that given there's 42 of us apparently going to be there, the time for making individual contributions will be severely limited unless we're planning to be there for a few days.
Especially in a cabinet who would love talking, I'm sure.
Maybe we could arrange about holidays around about that time.
What time of day is it?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock,
Yeah.
We'll have to put it cloaked.
So, my tendency is to go for some tightly focused. This is what we want, Mr. Cabinet and Co.
Well, it would be sensible for us to agree what.
Well, I think that's right, and I think that, notwithstanding paragraph B in response, I think it's clear what they're hoping to get out of it. At the end of the day, it might not be what we want to get out of it, but and they'll do exactly what they like. We'll go back to Council Hall in any case. So,
Can I just point out this is in 3 days' time?
If I may
within the next 48 hours.
What's unusual is not having any kind of agenda. So therefore we are completely unable to make any positions now at this council.
Yes.
And I suspect the purpose is for them to talk at us, not with us, rather more. So
they're coming to the wrong council then, aren't they?
I think that's quite. I don't agree with that at all. You know, I think the fact of the matter is we all know what what county council what reputation they have. They're not popular, and I think it's actually quite a gutsy decision, regardless of who they are or what they are, because party colours of all different councillors attend these meetings, or should I say, councillors of all party colours do. And I actually think it's quite gutsy for our central authority, if that's the right word to use, are actually basically going out there and...
I very much support it, but we shall see, with no agenda and not knowing how
the agenda the agenda will be by now, I would assume, published in the council website in any case, because the cabinet papers are always published in the PCDP.
Councillor Crockett's talking about the agenda being for
the informal meeting. Well, that'll be down to the chair, and I suppose the leader of the council will be chairing the cabinet meeting.
They must legally have a venue right now, because you can't not have a venue.
That'll be the Winter Gardens, it's on the place,
So,
is it? Sorry?
Winter Gardens.
Yeah. It's on the place,
Two people and no agenda, that's kind of chaos.
You could drop some notes around the esplanade, couldn't you?
Well, the problem we've got is Julian says it's in 3 days' time in any case, and I think
some sort of focused short list of things that might go in under their written questions thing. The other advantage for us is it gives us the potential of broadcasting our issues to the other councils of Chale, God's Hill, Knighton, Whitwell, Wroxall. I mean, Wroxall have probably got to get used to hearing some of the stuff from here, so we might as well start there.
I think we set our own agenda. Is what we're supposed to do. If somebody's not going to tell us what the agenda is, we might as well put on the table what we want to talk about.
Well, and the last paragraph is rather self-defeating. There will be time for written and oral questions if you would like to submit a written question. You can do so by 4 p.m. on Monday the 8th of October. That'll be 8 hours over the limit of that. Here we go again. Okay. Round this up. How am I going to round it up?
What are our top 3 issues, perhaps?
Yeah. I would favour that if anybody around the table has got a pressing question you'd like to, then they do the email and CC the clerk and the deputy clerk into it, and then we'll see if there's anything that can be brought together under, say, 3 or 4 different headings. Unless anybody's got anything more pressing.
Should we also ascertain who's intending to attend?
Oh, well, I shall certainly come, because I've got works for members of the cabinet. In any case, and there's intending to come?
I'm intending to.
I hope to go.
Okay, so most of us really. So.
I've got to celebrate my birthday somehow.
I have to say, I don't know how many of no individual members of the cabinet. I know Dave Stewart and I are politically opposite ends of the spectrum, but I've always found him to be an approachable guy. You can speak to him, so I don't think it's going to develop into a slang match or a shouting match or anything like that, unless I start first. But that's a different thing entirely. Can we leave to that, David?
I just wanted the discussion really, which I think has been really interesting and quite and useful. We're asked to let them know who's going. So, do you want to do that individually, or shall I submit a list of names?
I think it was addressed to the clerk, so it's for the clerk to respond.
It's odd because it says dear clerk, and it says very inviting council.
It's quite right,
because it's too much work to go and then email us all individually.
That at all.
And they'll read our questions and mark
So should we?
We're going to say, right,
Yeah.
I intend to attend if possible, unless something prevents me between now and
Let's
then.
have a list of names and I'll
So
send
it was
you.
me.
Stuart's going,
Sorry.
Tony's going.
Me? No. Councillor Too Good?
No,
No.
sorry, I'll do something else.
Feelings coming?
Yeah, it's coming. Stephen?
Stephen coming, Billy, Ian. Councillor Lucas, no? You hit that thing, so you get the Gavin to
Two other appointments.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah, okay.
Chloe's going. Brian, you going?
No,
Yeah,
but two
right.
other appointments. Can't go.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to have two
Ian's
things.
coming.
Tactical TV.
Billy's going. Good. Are we informed and accordingly in that case?
Flat jackets and the ready.
Anybody else who wants to go can go, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know at least one member of the public is intended to come on.
I've never heard anybody talking about it. It's,
The first I heard about it this morning.
yeah.
Should we then email to the clerk that any ideas we have for items to be raised by us as a queue?
Yeah, sure. I think that'll be pretty informal, you'll see, in any case. I don't think it'll be kicked over the hedge. I think we will do pretty much.
Okay, that's enough.
This
Yeah,
unspecified
thanks.
venue is the Winter Garden.
It is the Winter Garden, yeah.
It is the Winter Garden, yes.
Right, moving neatly along to Ventnorville. The Ventnorville contribution.
This should be straightforward, Chair, yes or no?
Yes, I should think so.
Yes.
I'm quite excited about the fact that there's going to be an ice skating rink coming to the
Yes.
Winter Gardens this year under the Ventnor
Are you going to go?
But
You know, I want to come if you go.
have you never seen me on the ice pirouetting? No. You shut your eyes for 20. It's a canister one. Yeah, I'll definitely have a go, for sure, yeah. Even if it's just for the claps and amusement. I'm embarrassing myself. But no, it sounds very exciting. It's a great time of the year, I think. It deserves our support. So the recommendation is that the Town Council recommends a re-contribution of £500 to this year's Ventnorville event and to ask the Assets and Services Working Group to respond to the request for free car parking during the event. Any comments from councillors on either of the two recommendations?
Propose it.
Want to go straight to the presenter? No? Okay, so proposed by Councillor Geddes, second please. Councillor Lucas, all those in favour, please show. Thank you. No, thank you very much. We'll forego the health update because Councillor Mark isn't here, so we'll straight to the parks report.
Yes, I shan't detain you very long. Usually listed assorted items. The Society of Local Council Clerks meeting I've recorded because of the amount of concern there was at the meeting that Alison and I both went to about the circumstances affecting the clerks of Newport and Benbridge. Both of them feeling they had no choice but to leave, although they didn't want to. Otherwise, so I thought you should be aware of that. The Isle of Wight Association of Local Councils is less than happy with those members, those councils which aren't members.
You mean us?
The Ventnor Business Association meeting took place as usual. We meet every 2 months with the Mayor and me, and Nick Cox attends that too. Upper Ventnor Community Association, Councillor Mack and I go to that every 6 weeks. Visiting students, it still continues and very usefully too. Some stuff. The latest meeting of South Wight Parish's Health and Wellbeing Forum is still rolling along really well. This one particularly well attended, with 8 of the town councils in the locality present and 2 others sending apologies, so that's really strong. And the dates of the meetings of the working groups, Chair. That's it. Okay. Unless anybody's got any questions, that's me finished with that.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Question about the for 2C of the IWEL. This meeting therefore instructs the NAL Chief Executive to use all the powers at disposal to stop cults offering development, associate or similar grade of membership. Can IWEL do that? Can IWEL instruct the NAL Chief Executive?
No.
That's what I thought, yeah. Okay, thank you.
No, and even the could instruct him, he would have no power to impose anything.
No, they can present a resolution at the appropriate meeting, which instruct them.
Yeah. It's typical of our organisation, if you ask me. Can I just say, just in one respect, on number 5 in David's report, there, visiting students, I don't think it's, well, I can't remember the mention of the previous council, but I just like to put in the record how grateful I personally am and how we should be to Jason for hosting these events, because I think it's very, very important that young people, school children, and all these school children are from quite often from deprived areas in our boroughs of London councils, and I think it's something that he has done well for years now, and really, you know, without any product. It's not that he's asking for products, but I just think it should be a market product. It's a great thing that he's doing, and that we as a council really do appreciate the work that he does in that direction. That's all.
Yep.
Anybody else? We can close at 8:12.